when Cam had another recent public back and forth?
I didn't have nothing. I don't want people to think I'm going back and forth. I'm just telling my truth, you heard?
Right.
And in terms of me telling my truth, if people feel they need to have a rebuttal or whatever they got going on, let them do it. This ain't a battle. People know this is not a battle at all.
Is it still a brotherhood? Is it still family?
Nah, it's no brotherhood.
Definitely not.
Definitely ain't no brotherhood. It been not no brotherhood.
And it's not fixable.
He wanted that. He was watching them be that, like Mace be that and Cam be that, and looked at, and it was finally, he had one. But I was like, we like Jimmy better than you anyway, Cam. Then you gotta watch and see how it is. When you see, he like, oh, he really like.
So cool. And we was like, yo, Jomo's a nice guy. Like, yo, I think I'll teach him how to rap. Mace actually taught you how to rap. Literally. He taught you how to rap. You say it.
Oh, it's way deeper than rap beef now. Before she passed, Cameron's mom looked him dead in the eye and said, "That man is gonna try to kill you." And she wasn't talking about some street dude or rival label. She meant Jim Jones, the same man Cam once called his brother. This wasn't some diss track drama. This was a life or death warning from the one person who knew Cam better than anyone else. And now, everything she feared is playing out in real time. 50 Cent tried to put folks on game. Max B tried to scream it out too, but nobody thought the biggest danger to Cam's life would come from someone inside the circle. So what was Jim really on? Was he after Cam's spot, his life? Or was it all about some long-buried revenge that never got closure? Everyone knows the tension between Jim and Cam has been bubbling for years, but behind the scenes it was boiling hotter than we ever knew. Sources say Cam's mom, Frederica Giles, told him years ago that Jim was dangerous, not just disloyal but plotting. And the wildest part? This ain't just some rumor. This is coming from Frederica, the same woman who helped shape Cam's whole journey. She wasn't just his mom. She was part of his image, his story, his soul. Cam always spoke highly of her. In interviews, in bars, even bringing her to shows. So when she told him Jim had bad blood in his heart, it wasn't petty, it was prophetic. And now that warning hits way harder because everything's lining up. 50 Cent saw the envy, Max B lived the betrayal, and now the streets are starting to catch up. It's like the mask finally slipped, and 50 Cent saw it before anyone else did. During that convo with Cam on It Is What It Is, 50 broke it down clear. Jim Jones wasn't ever a real rapper, he just wanted the throne. He didn't care about bars, he cared about power. And back during the Dipset versus G-Unit era, 50 said Jim was moving real sneaky, like a dude chasing a crown that never belonged to him. And guess what? When 50 invited Jim on stage right in the middle of that public war with Cam, Jim jumped at it like it was his big break, like this was his time to shine while his so-called brother was being targeted. Jim been on that slow, patient game. Folks used to think it was just little side comments, weird energy in interviews, or money talk behind the scenes. But nah, it was bigger than that. Jim went on Rap Life Radio and boldly said, "There's no brotherhood with Cameron," just like that. After all those classic records, all the moments, all the grind they went through together, Jim tossed it all in the trash with that one cold line: "No brotherhood means no loyalty, no code, no boundaries." And if Cam's mom, Frederica, peeped that fake energy way back, how many others been turning a blind eye? People are finally bringing Max B back into the convo. And they should. Max was right there when Jim was building his buzz, and look what happened. Max got cut off, shorted, and shut out. And Max always said it. Jim was a snake. All talk, selling dreams and using people up. Everyone brushed him off like he was bitter. But now, Max looking like he predicted the whole playbook. And yo, let's not forget that DC situation either. Back in 2005, Cam got shot while out at Howard's homecoming. That wasn't no random hit. And with all this history bubbling up, people are starting to connect dots. Cam's cruising through DC in a Lamborghini, vibing, when out of nowhere, two masked dudes pull up on him at a red light. No warning, no words. They try to jack his car and Cam ain't having it. He stands his ground and gets shot in both arms. Bleeding out, he still manages to drive himself to the hospital. That alone is wild. But the real story? It gets crazier. Back then, the media spun it like some random robbery gone wrong. Just bad timing. But the hood? Nah, we never believed that mess. It felt too targeted, too sharp. This wasn't about stealing a car. This was about sending a message loud and clear. Even the Associated Press later admitted it. Cam's shooting wasn't some botched hijack. And now that folks are re-listening to what Mama Frederica warned Cam about, that DC hit looks a whole lot deeper. Because if there really was tension boiling under the surface, if Jim Jones was moving grimy behind closed doors, who's to say that shot in DC wasn't connected to something way more personal? Now, nobody's confirmed anything, but word on the street, Cam surviving that hit wasn't just luck. It might have been the first real sign that someone in the inner circle was moving foul. howl. Cause envy don't always shout, sometimes it just waits. It watches, stays quiet, waits for the perfect moment. When your guard's down, when you think you're safe. Maybe that's why Frederica warned her son so seriously. Maybe she saw that switch flip in Jim's soul long before anyone else did. And that red light in DC, it might not have been random at all. That could have been Cam's exit, planned and ready, but he made it through. And now, years later, all those secrets are bubbling back up. People ain't sugarcoating it no more. They're calling Jim out raw, bitter, loud, pushing 50, but acting like he's still 23. One comment straight up hit the nerve. Dude too old to be this childish. And real talk, a lot of folks feel the same. They're saying if it wasn't for Cam, Jim would have been stuck in Harlem hustling chopped cheese and weed. No plan, no bars, no legacy. Just another dude trying to live out fake lyrics. Let's be real. Cam gave Jim the blueprint, gave him purpose, gave him a reason to even step in the booth. But instead of walking that lane with loyalty, Jim spent 2 whole decades trying to shine harder than the man who lit the torch for him. That ain't ambition, that's backstab behavior. Jim was never built to lead. He just wanted the spotlight, the respect, the seat at the table, but without earning it the right way. And now that folks are waking up, they're calling him what he really is, a Judas. A bench player trying to run the whole court. A grown man throwing shade at the same people who taught him how to rap. Even Jim himself admitted it. He told the world that Mace and Cam sat me down and showed me the magic to rap, straight from his mouth. But now, looking back, the signs were there the whole time. The passive-aggressive interviews, the fake smiles, the little slick comments, it was all coded hate. We just didn't want to see it. But now it's loud. And that moment that keeps coming back when Jim linked up with 50 Cent during the Dipset versus G-Unit war. Cam was in the trenches, and Jim was out here cheesing on camera with the enemy like it was nothing. Jim got played like a pawn, and 50 knew exactly how to move the pieces. He saw the envy sitting in Jim's chest and the lack of loyalty, and he used that weakness like a pro. That's why everything 50 said back in the day is finally clicking with people now. It was never just rap beef. It was a spotlight on how fast Jim switched sides when the shine wasn't on him. And fast forward to today, nothing's changed. Jim's still throwing subliminals, still puffing his chest like he's that guy, still trying to fool the internet. But let's be real, the streets know. The fans definitely know. One comment hit hard. Jim, you been cooked enough, bro. How you acting like a boss when the dudes who taught you the game are the same ones you dissing? And that's the truth. There wouldn't even be a Jim Jones the rapper without Mace polishing up his flow and Cam giving him the full playbook. Jim didn't build the house, he just moved in and tried to change the locks. And now he's online clowning both of them like history disappeared. Now, folks remember everything, and they're watching now more than ever. Let's talk about that wild $10 million boxing challenge. Jim, a grown man with gray in his beard, calling out Cam to fight in the ring. That's not hip-hop, that's just thirst. That's a man so hungry for buzz, he's willing to torch whatever legacy he had left just to trend on socials. And the craziest part, Cam ain't even blinking. He too locked in, building real business moves, running sports shows, dropping freestyles that still shake the internet and remind everyone who the real legend is. Meanwhile, Jim's out here yelling into mics like the crowd's still listening, but the block's gone ice cold. Even his longtime fans are over it. One said, I used to ride with Jimmy, but this video? Straight up embarrassing. Team Cam for life. That's the vibe now. Pure disappointment. Fans watching a man fall apart in real time. Jim ain't just aging. He's sliding backward, competing with shadows, stuck in the past, still chasing love from a crowd that already crowned Cam the real one years ago. And let's keep it 100. Cam never had to beg for respect. He didn't need to scream for flowers. He earned every bit of it through his bars, his style, his whole wave. Meanwhile, Jim's still out here trying to prove he matters, trying to convince the game he belongs. But folks are seeing through it now. There's real talk online that Jim's image was always more smoke than solid, and that gets real messy when you line it up with what 50 Cent just said, calling Jim Individual 1A. A not-so-subtle shot hinting at federal ties, and with 50, he don't just throw out random jabs, everything he says got weight behind it. So when he starts posting old Dipset photos and mocking Jim's music on socials, trust, that ain't nostalgia. That's a message. That's 50 circling back, just like he did in 2007 when he exposed Jim the first time. Now it's 2025, and 50's doing it again because nothing changed. Jim's still moving the same way. And now that Cam's winning without even saying Jim's name, it's like the bitterness is pouring out of every interview Jim does. You can feel it. The sneak disses don't land. The music ain't shaking nothing. People are starting to say Jim's entire rap run was a cover-up, a mask for what he lacked, real bars, growth, and humility. Online community's been going off. They're calling Jim the backstabber, the dude who flipped on Mace, ran to 50 in the middle of a war, and now dragging Cam into this lame stage beef just to stay in the conversation. And for what? Clout, streams, a little relevance in the feed? Meanwhile, Cam's legacy just keeps climbing. Silent but solid. One fan didn't hold back. Ain't nothing real about that. That's the definition of fake. People see it now. Jim finally let the truth slip and it exposed everything. A Judas in plain sight. And suddenly all that stuff 50 Cent said years ago, it hits different now. Another user said it straight. You look goofy, Jimmy. Act your age, bro. Let's be clear. This ain't hate, it's grief. Grief over what Jim could have been. He had the cosign, the momentum, the lane wide open, but he fumbled it chasing validation he never earned. He didn't want to walk beside Cam and he wanted to outrun him, but you can't outrun the truth. And now he's out here yelling into the void, beefing with ghosts, wondering why nobody's firing back, and it's cause there's nothing left to respond to. The stage is empty and Jim's shouting at shadows. He didn't just betray Cam, he burned down the very legacy that built him. And the wildest part, he still wants back in, but the door is gone. The fans, they dipped. The bond, gone. The bridge, ashes. Cam's moved on, and so has the culture. But Jim's still stuck, circling what's left, trying to rewrite history like we didn't all watch it crumble in real time. Now the only question is, what's he gonna destroy next, just to feel like he still matters? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more heat, and we'll catch you on the next one.